I've noticed a real trend of anything a man might take notice of being referred to as insecurity. If a guy doesn't want to date a taller woman, it's insecurity. A richer woman? Insecurity. Doesn't want you posting bikini pictures while you're in a committed relationship? You get the point. I feel as if most things some men might feel insecure about aren't random hallucinations, but a result of multiple negative experiences regarding them. We never label issues women might have as insecurity, so why don't we allow men to vent their issues without turning it around? Story 1. Do you remember 2012 when every kid on the internet would respond to everything with "you mad, bro"? Welcome to 2024. Every human being is a collection of insecurities. It's a meaningless statement from people who just want to feel clever. Story 2. It's a shaming strategy that places all the responsibility on the man accused of being insecure, which is why this comes up so often when men share their preferences for a mate. If those preferences were simply accepted, it would mean that a woman might also have to meet a man's standard, not just that men have to meet women's standards. Just note that this is not how all women think, just like not all men expect an early 20s top model virgin to be his private companion. Some will, but as always in history, not everyone gets to reproduce, and some of that is due to their own choices to limit the pool of eligible singles. Story 3. It's a good way to dodge accountability and make it an issue with you. Especially so, as it's an attack directed at your ego, which most people will readily try to defend by doing whatever it takes not to be insecure. Ego doesn't want to feel bad about itself. I personally do see a lot of actual insecurity, though, and I absolutely label some of the questions women post here with it. Sometimes it's obviously insecurity with men as well. Story 4. From the same source as "man up." You have these problems even though they shouldn't be problems at all. In fact, I know at least one man for whom it is not a problem, so you must be insecure because it's the only possible explanation. You have to man up and stop being insecure about this. Story 5. It's a classic manipulative verbal technique designed to put you on the defensive, shame you, and make the speaker look superior to you in front of others. Women are often instinctively better at this than men, as it comes naturally to them, whereas men have to work to even recognize that a tactic is being used against them. The best response is to not react in the way they want you to. No, it's not insecurity, because it subconsciously appears to everyone else, including you, that you have accepted their premise, and now the responsibility is on you to prove otherwise. Just ignore people who behave this way. You will never change their actions, and it will only lead to frustration for you. In the long term, individuals who manipulate others with phrases like "a real man would do something" will end up either alone or resenting their partner, so just pity them and walk away. Story 6. It's standard female shaming tactics. Whenever a man isn't doing something a woman wants him to, she attacks his masculinity to try to shame him into compliance. This is a huge red flag. A woman who will use this tactic is telling you that she doesn't care about you. All she cares about is getting what she wants, and she doesn't care about who she has to hurt to get it. Never allow yourself to be shamed into compliance by a woman. Don't reward this childish, callous, selfish behavior. Just disregard her. Story 7. I guess it just highly depends on the person and their specific views. Over the years, you form your character and views, and find out what you want and what you don't want in life or from relationships or other people in general. I couldn't care less if someone criticized me for insecurity. I have my reasons. It's none of your business. However, I feel like especially younger people who are still searching for themselves, which is normal as we all go through this, often aren't sure or simply don't know what or why. My guess is the people who call that out as insecurity are insecure themselves. I don't know a single person my age or in my circle of friends who would do this, simply because we have all somehow found our answers. And if not, we are there to help each other. Society, however, is at a point where it's easier to just assume something because that's much quicker and easier than talking about things. It sucks, but don't let others judge you because of a single view you have without them knowing anything about you. Story 8. The conflation of insecurity with having standards or preferences is a damaging simplification of the complex nature of human relationships. It seems to me that detractors use this as a sort of societal sleight of hand, where instead of engaging with someone's criteria or concerns, they reframe the conversation with a personal attack, dismissing valid points under the pretense of exposing vulnerability. It's a subtle form of ideological bullying, a way to enforce a particular set of standards by denigrating another's to the realm of a personal flaw. It is, at best, a miscommunication and, at worst, deliberate silencing. Interestingly, men are not alone in facing this. Women are often similarly shamed for preferences that divert from the assumed feminine norm. Story 9. It's an old feminist tactic. Telling men they are insecure implies that they are weaker than the person making the accusation. This is a basic principle of sexism from those who supposedly fight against it. Story 10. Just women hating and shaming men for anything they feel. Remember all that empathy they lie about having? Yeah. Remember all that open up about your emotions? Yeah. Story 11. The word has an immediate shaming effect. You know what, though? What's wrong with being insecure? Everybody has insecurities, whether we would like to admit it or not. If you are insecure about dating a taller woman, stand on business. Story 12. This might get buried, but I hope you read it. The meaning of insecurity is doubt in oneself or not having confidence. When a man states his preference, he is not insecure. He is secure and confident in what he likes. The other person is offended as they don't fit that, and hence they use whatever tactic to make him feel bad. Story 13. We can't say it's our preference because that would get labeled as misogynistic, so every problem a man has to come from himself. He is always the one to blame. If we don't want overweight women, we're fatphobic. If we don't want a woman to spend all our money, we're controlling. If we don't want a loud, obnoxious woman, we're insecure, and so on. And when a man ever vents, he's abusive. That's how the blame game works. Story 14. Women often face challenges with accepting accountability. It's easier to avoid responsibility for one's own mistakes and shortcomings when there is a perceived external party to blame. Story 15. This idea suggests that every problem affecting a man is internal and caused by something he is doing wrong, rather than something being done wrong to him. The responsibility is placed on him to fix it, allowing those mistreating him to feel they haven't done anything wrong. In this way, society doesn't have to consider changes to treat men better, which ironically would produce the better men society claims to want. It's a lazy interpretation of the concept of male privilege. I believe in male privilege, and anyone who considers it should. However, there is excessive overreach in response to it. In the case of hyperagency, it manifests in the belief that since men have privilege, they cannot have problems or be treated poorly. If men cannot be treated poorly and cannot have problems, then any difficulties they claim to have are either not real or result from their own dysfunction. This dysfunction is often labeled as insecurity or lazily attributed to toxic masculinity. The main reason for this is that people struggle to recognize that two or more things can be true simultaneously. Everything has to be a zero-sum game. In this instance, society behaves this way because it has decided that addressing anti-woman sexism cannot coexist with acknowledging and rectifying the mistreatment of men. Addressing men's issues and recognizing it as a societal issue that we all have a responsibility to correct is seen as occupying space reserved for women's equality, or it is perceived as invalidating their movement. This is why we tend to dismiss men's issues, whether individual or collective, as internal issues men must deal with themselves. It's essentially the message to man up. Recognize your insecurity and fix it, because society is not ready to take men seriously right now. Story 16. Having standards and holding frame is considered insecure behavior by a lot of women because you're not man enough to tolerate their behavior. So be it, then I'm insecure. Have fun. Story 17. According to the modern feminist narrative, men are not allowed to have reservations about anything that an independent woman does. Only higher-ranking feminists are allowed to have reservations about what lower-ranking feminists do. If men do have reservations, it is because they feel threatened by the woman's independence and are trying to reassert patriarchal dominance. I put patriarchal in quotation marks because it is the wild card of frustrated man-hating feminists. Your shoelace broke? It must be the fault of the patriarchy. Story 18. It's a manipulative tactic by women to get us to accept their flaws and save them the energy and effort to change their behavior. Well, women aren't as nice as portrayed by the media and society. Not saying that men are nicer. I live in a society that has religious regulations for marriage. However, people stick to additional traditions. Yesterday, I found a girl making a post on Reddit protesting a certain tradition. Not because it's not one of the religion's regulations, but because she sees it against the best interest of girls. She believes that the guy should buy everything for the household, yet she fails to recognize that if the guy were to buy everything, there would be many utilities that wouldn't exist in the household. Girls usually refuse to come to terms with this and would say, "You're not a real man," or "If you don't have enough money, then we're not meant for each other." Story 19. I do not think everything is insecurity, but a lot of it is, and both genders can be guilty of it. If a girl you like posts suggestive photos on Instagram when you meet her, then you cannot just expect her to suddenly stop when she is in a relationship with you. If it makes you uncomfortable, then you can raise it in a discussion, but she is under no obligation to. If you cannot compromise, then do not date her. Story 20. It is frustrating when men's concerns are quickly labeled as insecurity without acknowledging the underlying reasons or experiences. Just as women's concerns are taken seriously, men's feelings should be treated with understanding, not dismissed. It is important for both genders to listen to each other and address issues without jumping to conclusions or reducing everything to insecurity. Story 21. It's frustrating when every concern a guy has gets brushed off as insecurity. Sometimes it feels like if a man voices discomfort or a preference, it's automatically labeled as a personal flaw rather than a valid feeling. Just like women have genuine concerns and boundaries, men do too. It's important to recognize and address these issues without instantly dismissing them as insecurities. Everyone deserves to be heard and understood. Story 22. If you label it as insecurity, it helps to recruit other men who will criticize you for the insecurity to feel superior. It's just a way to isolate you and dismiss your feelings, opinions, and standards as a man. Story 23. I think the real questions are, why aren't men allowed to ever feel insecure? And why is having an insecurity automatically seen as an irredeemable quality for men, rather than something to help them overcome? Story 24. Because it's accurate. That doesn't mean it's wrong. If I'm in a committed relationship, and my partner posts provocative pictures, you're damn right I'm gonna feel insecure in our mutual commitment to that relationship. Story 25. Some of it will come down to insecurity, but yes, it should not be assumed. Fortunately for you, though, the world is not short of dumb people nor of people projecting. Story 26. Saying that a preference might be founded on an insecurity doesn't mean that it came out of nowhere. Many common insecurities are a direct result of social conditioning. Insecurity about dating tall and affluent women is a natural response to a lifetime of being bombarded with messages like, being shorter than your girlfriend makes you less of a man, and you're not a real man if you're not the provider. The same can be said about women's dating-related insecurities. I need a tall boyfriend so I can wear heels without feeling gigantic is a natural response to a lifetime of being told that it is unfeminine to take up space. I know it isn't always used this way, but a question like, is that based on an insecurity? Should be a way to call somebody into a more real conversation, not shut them out. Story 27. When someone has a problem with a man of below average height, he is dismissed as having short man syndrome. Same deal. These are just cheap shots to silence people. Story 28. Because if it is my fault for being insecure, then they do not have to be self-aware and acknowledge how they can improve themselves. If I am insecure, then why would they even want to associate themselves with me? Because they are manipulators. Story 29. Looking at your examples, insecurity can be the reason for all of them, or worse, controlling behavior. For example, men building their identity on being the provider of the family becomes a problem caused by insecurity when they have a meltdown due to their partner succeeding in their career, thus becoming the breadwinner. There is a big difference between not wanting to date a woman purely because she is rich, or because this person lords it over you, or some other negative trait enabled by them having more wealth. By the broad statement, I do not want to date someone richer than me, they are telling the world they are only seeking relationships where they are economically dominant, not an equal partner in the relationship. In my book, this makes them a little person that can't handle not having this hold over them, but calling them insecure is a nicer way to put it. In general, the gender flip test is a simple way of finding out if it is a valid concern or an insecurity. Basically, if it is okay for you to do, have, or be but not your partner, it is an insecurity. Also known as not dealing with the attention posting sexy pictures gives your relationship a valid concern, unless you are showing off your dad bod while making the demand on your partner's body. Story 30. I am a woman, so sorry if this is not welcome, but I just wanted to add to this that even if it was all insecurity, what is wrong with that? People always act as if insecurity is not allowed, but it is. Story 31. This is part of why I have stayed single for so long. I have a decent job, a great place to live, and I am attractive, so I usually get a lot of attention from women. Go get them, right? Wrong. I have been in too many relationships with women who do not accept accountability for their actions, are irresponsible, and want to pin everything on me. I am waiting it out until I find a woman who is mature enough to say, I was wrong, and can be a responsible adult about things in general. If she does not respect my feelings and my concerns, and cannot treat me like a human being, I am not doing it. You must add to my peace and security in life, not take away from it, because my peace and security are worth more than someone who just wants to take and give nothing back but insults and depreciation.